What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Blade 2, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Blade 2 tells the story of what if Blade joined up with a group of vampires to take on an even worse group of vampires, while all the while he falls in love himself with another vampire. It's a sick, twisted tale of romance of the macabre. That's Blade 2, only not like that. All jokes aside, I think Blade 2 is a worthy sequel. I think this is a damn good movie. Like, I forgot how good Blade 2 actually really is. Blade 2 was never a movie that I actually went back to a lot, but whenever I did watch it, I always liked it. But looking back at it now, Blade 2 is really good. The story behind Blade 2 is actually really compelling and very interesting. The whole idea of Blade joining up with a group of vampires to take on a bigger threat of vampires called the Reapers, who feast not only on humans but vampires themselves and turn whatever they feast on in like pretty much to like them, is very intriguing. And the villain and the villain that leads the Reapers is an intriguing villain onto himself. So with all that being said, let me illustrate what I liked and what I didn't like. So number one, overall, the cast of this movie is stellar. Wesley Snipes as Blade is just as good in this movie as he was in the first movie. I actually think Blade got a lot more to do in this movie in terms of emotionality. You know, having Blade develop a romance with the character of Nessa, who is a pure-blooded vampire, was really intriguing and kind of opened up Blade's worldview as to not see everything in such a black and white way, because he learns that there's two types of vampires: the vampires that he hunts and the vampires that he can be allies with. And Nessa is the key to Blade having that character, to having that moment and a character epiphany. And when the character of Nessa dies in Blade's arms, it's actually a very beautiful yet very tragic, heartbreaking moment, because throughout the course of the movie, Blade and Nessa develop a really good bond with one another and really do have a very subtle romance that develops between the two that is really well handled. And you got really good performances by Wesley Snipes and the actors who played Nessa that really sell it. And not only that, Wesley Snipes, just in this movie as a whole, he's just as cool and badass to boot. Another thing I like about this movie brings back Chris Christopherson as Whistler. Now, in the first movie, the Whistler character was killed, but in this movie, we find out that he actually was turned into a vampire. So Blade, at the beginning, is pretty much globe-trotting, trying to find Whistler until he eventually does. But by the time he finds Whistler, he's already a vampire. So Blade pretty much finds a way to cure Whistler of his vampirism. And the father-son dynamic that worked so well in that first movie is further expanded upon in this movie, and it's done beautifully and brilliantly. And Chris Christopherson and Wesley Snipes always had a really good chemistry with one another. I love these two as Blade and Whistler, and I love the relationship between these two. It's such a really well done father-son dynamic, and you can clearly tell that Blade and Whistler have a love and respect for one another. It's beautiful stuff, and they're just badass whenever they're fighting side by side with one another. And Whistler, as always, I love his quips, I love his back and forth, especially with the Blood Pack, because there are two members of the Blood Pack that have a grudge against both Blade and Whistler respectively. They're called Reinhardt and Chupa, and I love the back and forth bantering between Whistler and those two hostile members. Speaking of the character of Reinhardt, he is played great by Ron Perlman. I love the Reinhardt character. He comes across as just a smarmy dick, and who's constantly picking on Blade and picking on Whistler. And when he finally gets his in the end, you feel very gratified. And the character of Nomak is a really good villain. I think that Nomak is very intriguing as a villain. We find out that Nomak was genetically created by the character of Demaskinos. Now, Demaskinos is the father of Nissa and the one who forms the Blood Pack anyway, but we also find out that it was Demaskinos who created the Reapers. He pretty much gave the Reapers a lot of power, but the Reapers also suffer from the vampire's greatest weakness, which is the sunlight. The Reapers have none of the vampire's vulnerabilities except the sunlight. So pretty much Demaskinos devises this plan to get Blade to join the Blood Pack, because Demaskinos feels that Blade, since he's half human, half vampire, his blood holds the key to making his Reapers strong. So Demaskinos comes across as a conniving and smarmy dick, and I like the portrayal of Demaskinos as well. How does this play into the character of Nomak? Well, it's revealed that Nomak is the son of Demaskinos, and that Nomak's prejudice towards vampires comes from his father abandoning him in a way and pretty much giving him a life that he didn't ask for nor want. And not only that, I like how this movie tries to parallel Blade and Nomak's relationships. Nomak hates vampires. He knows Blade hates vampires. To Nomak, he and Blade are kindred spirits because they both want the same thing. However, throughout the course of this movie, Blade learns to respect and trust vampires, while Nomak just continues on with his vampire prejudice. Not only that, this movie actually does a really good job at paralleling the two separate father-son relationships. Blade and Whistler are built on love and respect, while Demaskinos and Nomak is built upon hatred. I like how these two I like how they really parallel one another. It's really well done. I thought David S. Goyer and Del Toro did a good job at creating those, paralleling those stories. Really, really, really well done. Another character that I enjoyed is the character called Scud, played by Norman Reedus. I like Norman Reedus as an actor. I like the character of Scud. I thought Scud was actually really, really funny in a lot of scenes. I like the little rivalry that developed between him and Whistler, and I also like the budding friendship that develops between the two. Of course, it's revealed that Scud was working with Demaskinos the whole time as a mole, and when Blade tricks Scud and kills him, I love Whistler's line when once Scud dies, Whistler's like, "Damn, I was beginning to like him." This movie's so good. With the Whistler, this movie is just really, really good. The action sequences in this movie are really, really well done. Some of them can be very, very stilted, but that's because the CGI itself can be very, very stilted. But when it's just practical effects and just humans, beautifully choreographed. Wesley Snipes, because he's a trained martial artist, makes everything look easy. It makes it look clean and crisp. I love the fight scene. I love the fight scene in the sewer where the Bloodpack are being attacked by Reapers. It's really, really gloomy and horror. But Blade, being Blade, holds his own and kicks all kinds of ass. And of course, you got this great scene where Blade, who falls into this blood pit, and once he rises out of the blood pit, goes ham on Demaskinos' henchmen. Great stuff. Great scene. Beautifully directed stuff. Speaking of that, Del Toro as a visual director, this movie looks fantastic. This has the perfect blend of stylized gothic horror with a comic book feel to it. Del Toro captures that imagery perfectly. While the first movie had the elements of horror, this movie, Del Toro expands on that horror element, and he does it really, really well. Really, really works for me with his cinematography. This movie, like I said, the movie looks beautiful. So yeah, pretty much those are my thoughts on Blade 2. I think it's a worthy successor to the first Blade movie. I like it on par with that first Blade movie, which is why I'm gonna give Blade 2 a solid 9 out of 10. If you've not seen Blade 2, watch it. It's worth it. It's such a good movie, and it's such a worthy successor to the first Blade movie. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I will check you back next time for more.